is doing well. Please put a 1 in the chat if you can hear me and my sound is okay. I've missed 2 days and it's been a pretty wild 2 days, so there is a lot that I need to catch up with. This might actually end up being like a 2-hour podcast. We'll see. What's this in the chat? Mina? It's your birthday? I am so glad that we could do a live on your birthday and that you're here. Round of applause for Mina Ruth. Round of applause. Been an incredible community member. Mina, have you been here were you here in the OG Sussex Squad pod days? Hope you're having a lovely birthday. Thank you everyone for filling into the chat early. Well, it's been a full 48 hours since we were told that Harry and Meghan and their children were coming. It was first reported in the BBC, and then People, then Sky, and then now the Telegraph, and all of these outlets have jumped on it. The Sussex people have not denied it. And so they also haven't confirmed it, but they also have not denied it. And so I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that it is likely happening. I'm not surprised that it's happening. It may not be popular amongst the squad because of how we feel about Charles and other members of the royal family, but at the end of the day, we're not behind closed doors. And I believe that Harry likely wants his grandchildren to see their granddad, because Charles is very ill. I do believe that Charles is a lot more quiet. Keep it quiet. Sorry, I was I was speaking and then I started reading somebody's comment. Keep it, Lady Met. Keep it quiet. Keep what quiet? Wait, hang on a sec, folks. I need to cough. Sorry, I was going to say I do believe that Charles is a lot more ill than what they're telling us. So I'm not surprised they're going to try and bring the Sussex kids at this point, to be honest. Minnie said it came to the space around 2021. Also, just after Harry and Meghan stepped down. Okay. Yeah. So I do believe that it is happening, that they are coming. However, what I don't think will happen, I will be surprised actually if we see the kids out and about. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. But it could literally just be that the kids are coming to see Charles and maybe other friends and family of Harry, and Meghan also has friends in London as well. Or the Spencers as well. Oh, you said you mean Harry and Meghan would keep it quiet? Yeah, because the tabloids have been so loud. I mean, I think it's on the cover of The Sun. They probably had a mock version of that cover on The Sun today for a while. So we're going to get into all of that. But before we get into that, let's laugh, shall we? Let's laugh at another troll getting their karma. So, last podcast, we spoke about Jeremy Clarkson and how Jeremy Clarkson, who hated Meghan on a cellular level, now has cancer cells. And in today's podcast, Vanessa Feltz, this lady thought that she was doing something by almost every single morning show that she does. She's talking about Harry and Meghan. And I think people are honestly just bored. She was apparently blindsided by Channel 5 bosses as her daytime chat show was axed just after 1 year on air. Quite frankly, I'm surprised it lasted that long. You cannot run an entire operation anymore anyway. I think the gravy train is slowing down. You cannot run an entire operation on just bitching and blabbing about Harry and Meghan. One by one, they will fall. And I've watched Vanessa's show. She has no character, nothing really interesting. There's nothing like you're desperate to hear about on this show. So, Channel 5. Oh, this is the same Channel 5, by the way, that manages to pull a new royal family documentary out of its behind every 5 minutes. Channel 5 officially pulled the plug on Vanessa Feltz's daytime chat show just after a year on air. According to Digital Spy, the network cited afternoon scheduling changes and will rest the program from July 17th. But let's not pretend we don't know what really happened here. The Daily Fail is reporting that the decision was driven by dire ratings and a string of embarrassing prank calls. Oh, really? That made the whole operation look like a community access nightmare. I mean, this show does nothing but troll. So am I surprised that it attracted trolls that were trolling a troll show? The season presenter 64 was brought into a meeting this week and told the news by Channel 5 bosses. Sources close to the show say she was left furious and stormed out of the studio in tears following the tense discussion. She can go meet William at the pubs that he's trying to save, and they can have a beer together. An insider said she had no idea what the meeting was about and certainly didn't expect to be told it was not going to be renewed. She feels so blindsided but also let down by the bosses. Well, at the end of the day, if people aren't watching you, darling, and you're not that interesting, what do you expect? And, you know, Vanessa Feltz has been around for a while, honey. And I don't think that she's really developed as a presenter. There's nothing about her that has really... there's been no character arc. And I feel like there's just no place for people like her. She has nothing... She really has nothing to offer. And it honestly has nothing to do with age. There's a lot of much older presenters who are still going very strong. She just doesn't offer anything particularly interesting. And she's also just very annoying. I think if even people like, Kat Deely. Kat Deely started, on the kiddie shows. And she worked her way up to daytime. And she's a pretty... staple figure now on daytime TV, presenting. She does evening show. So some people really learn how to develop their angle and personality on TV. I don't think Vanessa Feltz has. Give me a sec. So the program attracts on average 50,000 viewers per 70-minute show, significantly lower than Jeremy Vine, another one who does nothing but talk about Meghan. He's probably next. Mind you, TV ratings in general are struggling. I haven't had a TV in well over a decade. I watch mostly YouTube and Netflix now. And so daytime TV is really struggling. Like the only time I'm thinking about, when do I really get desperate to watch TV? The Olympic opening? Like... the World Cup final, and I'm not even interested in this year's World Cup. It's not that often I'm really like, okay, I actually need to sit in front of a widescreen TV and watch something. There's not that many things that make me want to do that. So Vanessa Feltz screaming and yelling about Harry and Meghan? Absolutely not. I think even the trolls are fed up. Since its launch in March 2025, it has had 3 refreshes to its set and logo in a bid by bosses to attract viewers. Ah. So let's just rewind for a little bit, right? So when Netflix launched Meghan's lifestyle series With Love Meghan, Vanessa decided that she needed to be chief critic in residence. She didn't just offer, mild take. She went all in. She created a whole parody series called With Love Vanessa, filmed on what looked like a budget of £12.50, complete with the hula hoops poured into a bag, flower petals scattered about in the most condescending tone this side of a PTA meeting. Vanessa mocked Meghan's vocabulary, as if she mocked it as joyful and elevating, as if using positive words was a crime. Oh, nothing is as big as a crime for the likes of Vanessa Feltz, misery who loves company, than being joyful and elevating. Oh no, you have to live in misery, dear. It's that British tall poppy syndrome. Can't be too happy, too glamorous, or else you're doing too much. And God forbid you use you're joyful and elevating. She joked about borrowing a bigger garden and introducing a lifelong friend she'd known for about 6 months. She called Meghan's pretzels and in-bag segment basic and she called Meghan's pretzels in a bag segment basic and said, and I quote, "You don't need to do a show in which you put pretzels in a bag and tie a bow on it. That's the sort of thing you do when you're not married to a prince of the realm." What does tying a bow on something and just making it look pretty have to do with being married to Harry? Vanessa also accused Meghan of downgrading herself from royal status to ordinary jobbing. Ah, yes, because if you're someone that actually works for a living, you're downgrading yourself. And if you're taking money from the taxpayer to the tune of well over 100 million a year, and that's a lower estimate, that's absolutely fine. She questioned why someone in Meghan's position would sell jam to people with much less money than she has, which she also like to ask Charles because he's doing the exact same thing. In fact, the palace jumped on the back of Meghan selling her jam to try and sell Charles's. I didn't even know that Charles had jam. And now Vanessa's show gets cancelled. Poetic. And it's not because of some grand conspiracy or cancel culture, but it's because so few people were watching. The ratings were in the gutter, and the prank calls apparently were relentless. And I didn't hear these so-called prank calls. But if they were struggling to control the prank calls, all that told you that people were not taking her seriously. Another Meghan hater, who I've literally not heard about since the last time she hated on Meghan, that's the only time you ever hear about her, is Meghan, my father, McCain. Her podcast has been struggling. So Meghan McCain's media ambitions have struggled to take off. Her podcast, Meghan McCain Has Entered the Chat, launched in 2023 and was rebranded as Citizen McCain and merged with the low-performing YouTube show hosted by Mark Halperin's Two Way Network. A lot of these old school right-wing types, they're literally being overtaken by these knucklehead youngin streamers, talking even more nonsense than their older counterparts, but they speak to younger millennials, Gen Z, whoever is after Gen Z. And so that audience, they're really not checking for Meghan, my father, McCain. Meghan, my father, McCain doesn't have anything to offer them. In fact, I'm pretty sure, like, even Candace Owens um is more popular than Meghan McCain. If Candace Owens is still alive. Did you all hear about the conspiracy today? Someone in Candace Owens' network posted that she's dead and then deleted the tweet without any explanation. So well, I guess we're going to get an update in the next 24 hours, but I don't know what that's about. That was crazy. Anyway, um okay. Let's get on to the next thing. Another troll down. What? So, what was the next thing I was going to get onto? That is, yes, it's quite interesting. There's been a lot of back and forth. Squad members. Some squad members don't like the fact that Harry and Meghan are bringing the kids. At the end of the day, it's their kids, their business. We know that Harry and Meghan would never do anything to put their kids in danger. We know that Meghan would never do anything that would put her mental state in such a bad place she wouldn't be able to, you know, recover. And she's been through it. We all remember those pictures after, the Queen's funeral in the car. And in the Archwell statement, they even said charitable entity allows the couple and their children to expand upon their global philanthropic endeavors as a family. As a family. So that does mean that the kids at some point will be involved. To what extent, we don't know. How much will they be seen? We don't know. But just the squaddies who are feeling uncomfortable, um, you know, Harry and Meghan will do what's best for their family. And, I don't think they're going to do anything that will put them in danger. We know what the trolls are like, but we also know that after all this time, Harry and Meghan they've always won. Right, they've always come out on top, so it's okay, folks. All right, let's go on to the next thing. Let's just hang on a sec, folks. My phone is acting a little bit funny. Okay. I'm going to read. So apparently, Charles is. Well, there is. It's being said that Charles is offering accommodation, but security is still a problem, which is just wild to me at this point. If that is true. Because even with the kids coming, but anyway, listen, we know the backstory. We know how horrid that royal family is. For the royals, it's about how it looks, not how it feels, as Meghan once said. Now, there are unconfirmed reports saying Harry and Meghan are planning on bringing the children. And the tabloids are full of contradictory stories about Charles swooping in to save the day. So they've literally run to try and spin this in a way that makes it look like Charles is saving the day. They've run to spin these ridiculous narratives about reconciliation. Listen, we don't actually know the full reason why. Obviously, this falls on the Invictus 1 year to go, but we don't know any other real reasons why Harry and Meghan are bringing their children. Mind you, it's still their children's home country through their dad, and they just have the right to come, period, whenever they want. They're just not safe to. I believe that there's probably leaking from Charles's side, and a lot of it is just legacy management. And then there's also leaking from William and Kate's side, throwing a goddamn tantrum. So this is from The Sun. Take it with a pinch of salt. Charles has offered to help cover their security arrangements. It's been claimed. I don't know if I believe that. The Home Office has still granted taxpayer-funded, round-the-clock armed police protection for their next trip. Well, we don't know that. That hasn't been confirmed either. The king is believed to have intervened to offer his own resources so the couple can bring their 2 children. I mean, I'm guessing that would be the accommodation. However, the Times has a completely contradictory story. They reported something different entirely. So they're saying the king has offered Harry, Meghan and their children accommodation in a royal residence, but has yet to receive a reply. However, the sources close to Charles, moved to contradict reports that the king has offered to pay for private security for his son for the visit. Some close to the process are now wary of an attempt to drag Charles into the debate. Listen, they all need to get their story straight. Someone's lying. Okay, let me go to your comments and then so I can see what you're saying. Thank you so much to Elaine Parker, who's been a member for 48 months. Thank you, Elaine Parker. Appreciate you. Wendy, you said, I think the Sussexes are waiting to hear from Ravek final decision on security before giving a statement on their decision going forward. All this crap from the UK media speculation. That is actually a very, very good point. Good point. Thank you, everyone, for wishing me a happy birthday. Wendy, you also said, yeah, when Harry comes to the UK, he stays with friends. And that's who I think he'll stay with. He's still also got the Spencer's estate. Yeah, no leaks in Montecito until we're ready to say what needs to be said. Lady, you said some people are saying it looks bad that Charles is paying for Beatrice and Eugenie and not Harry's family. That's why he's doing it. I can believe that. I mean, it's looked bad on Charles for a while. Andrew's had security. Andrew, friend of Epstein, had security all this time. Still has security. Hey, Clark, did we just come on? No, we've been going for a full 25 minutes. Rewind and then you can watch it on a higher speed so you can catch up. Loli, you said, I think if Harry in fact plans to bring his family, he notified that he's staying at Althorpe, which is close to Birmingham. Potentially. With recent reports outlining that he was paying for Andrew's children's accommodation, yes, Beatrice and Eugenie, while he callously evicted his son out of a home, it's probably the real reason he's doing this. He does not want it to be a stain on his already stained legacy that he has been cold and callous as a father and grandfather. But history will not be kind to Charles. He has proven to be an unfaithful husband, a cruel parent, and a terrible hypocrite. And this is ultimately just one big PR war. Well, let me rephrase that. Charles and William and Camilla and Kate are turning it into a PR war where there doesn't really need to be one. I don't think there's any attempt at any kind of family reconciliation. I think it's a carefully coordinated PR campaign designed to control the narrative before Harry and Meghan's potential visit. Because there's been an interesting sequence of events. First, there was a snub. No word from the palace about Harry's Invictus trip. Then social media began speculating that Harry and Meghan might stay with the Spencer family. And then almost immediately, the Paris palace briefed that Charles had offered security and a royal residence to Harry and Meghan. When that drew scrutiny, the story was corrected. No paid security, just the residence. And now William's camp is going feral, briefing that Charles has betrayed William. Betrayed him how? By not giving him a lollipop? William wants a lollipop. William wants a lollipop and ice cream. He's in a rage. And apparently he's threatening to boycott Sarrington if the Sussexes come. Okay. Can we please get a picture of planet Earth before and after William threatened to not go to Sarrington? So we can see what planet Earth looked like from space before and after. I want to see if it looked any different. Because I don't think it caused a single shift in the clouds that William is threatening to boycott Sarrington. What utter nonsense. Threatening to boycott Sarrington. Now he needs to get his ass out of the house more to work. That's another thing we're going to talk about later on in today's podcast. The laziness and lack of work ethic of these people. You know, it was one of the most obvious predictions that Kate and William, as soon as we heard about this, we're going to spend the next 4 weeks thrashing around and throwing tantrums. And here we go. Now, this is the opening, ladies and gentlemen, of what is going to be a month-long hissy fit from William. Leak after leak after leak. Prepare. Now, incidentally, William's 44th birthday is on Sunday. And I'm sure all of his birthday profiles are going to be about how much he hates the Sussexes and how Harry is already dead to him. 44 years old and fueled solely by rage and hate. Now, Tom Sykes from the Royalist Substack wrote a whole article on how raging William, shuns Charles over Harry and Meghan's invite. Again, I ask, I'm meant to care about this? Why? The British public are meant to care about William's rage? Why? William also refused to attend a trooping lunch, which is technically a snub to Charles. I think that William is so appalled by what he sees as his father's betrayal that he refused to join a customary family lunch after trooping and left the celebrations with Kate and the kids immediately after the fly past. By the way, speaking of trooping, we still do not have aerial shots of trooping. I couldn't find any. Does anybody have aerial shots of trooping? They usually can't wait to show us the aerial shots of trooping and the crowds and how the crowds went wild. This year we have none, which is rather interesting. This is according to Tom Sykes, who is in the past he's been a mouthpiece for William, but he says friends of William said the king should support his heir and that he owes William more respect. The king's offer to underwrite Harry's security means that a still unresolved decision from Ravek about Harry's security becomes irrelevant for now. The fact that Charles is paying settles an argument I have been having with the rest of the royal commentarati for the best part of a year. While it's true that the Sussexes have been relentlessly pushing the story, Have they? Anyway, I'm not even going to read any more of this because I think Tom Sykes is an idiot. But I do believe, if there's anything I do believe about any of this nonsense, um is that William most definitely had a tantrum. Because if there's anything that William can do and do very well, it's throw a tantrum. And apparently he is threatening to boycott Sarandom if the Sussex family spends time there. Um, just childish. Like, who would boycott a whole house, or is Sarandom a castle or an estate? What is it? Oh no, William's gonna boycott yet another one of the 100 estates that the royals have. And the fact that William can't even see the hypocrisy of punching the walls and shrieking, "Respect my authority," to Charles. This is the heir who spent several years briefing the press that his father was close to kicking the royal bucket, and that the Scooter King reign was upon us all. Throwing these types of tantrums rarely earns the respect of anyone. William is really gonna struggle as king. He's struggling now. Wendy, you said the leaks about any potential visit from the Sussexes came from Camilla and William, who fears their lies will be debunked. Why do you say Camilla and William? Do you think Camilla and William are working with each other? Because I feel like Camilla's got William by the balls. William and his family are so full of drama, you can say that again. And this is drama we have to pay millions for every single year. While they do the absolute bare minimum. So let's talk about that, shall we? Oh yes, I've got tables and figures. Have a look at this. Have a look at this when it loads on my screen for me. But William and Kate have actually fell behind Charles in engagement count. Now, mind you, engagements would also count as things like Ascot. They actually put Ascot down as an engagement, by the way. Ridiculous. So Charles completed 86 solo engagements in the first 3 months of 2026. Right, that was just the first 3 months. William managed 22. Now, I want you to take the figures, right? And I want you to take at least a quarter of them away. And then you get closer to a number of actual work with a very small W, the smallest W in the world that they actually do. Because they don't work. They just show up to things and wave and smile here and there. And they put things like football matches, going to Ascot down as working engagements as well. So bear that in mind. Now, Charles completed 86 according to records in the first 3 months. William, by contrast, managed 22. I want you to also bear in mind that these so-called engagements, some of them won't even be an hour long. So you can take off it. You can actually take off another quarter. You can literally half any engagements that they say that they do, half them, because a bunch of them will be things like showing up for Ascot, showing up for Wimbledon, showing up for football matches, and then half of them probably won't even be an hour long. So If we're going by the figures, Charles did quadruple. William. Camilla, at age 78, logged 33 solo appearances. Kate only recorded 11 in the first 3 months, the laziness of it all. So if we're applying our logic, right, that some of these events barely an hour and include things that really aren't considered, none of it is considered work, but if we're going by the royal standard of what's considered work, Kate technically maybe only did 5 engagements, if that. And the numbers really tell a story that royal defenders find increasingly difficult to explain or excuse. How do you excuse this? 11 engagements in 3 months? And some of them may not have even been an hour long. William and Kate are in their mid-40s. Full of energy. They're healthy and their children attend school full time. But the couple who represent the monarchy's future are being outpaced by relatives old enough to be retired. This isn't a slow month. It's existed for years. And the British public have to pay for this. So, Gert's Royal Analysis has compiled the official engagement data from the court circular for the first 3 months of 2026. The findings reveal a stark divide between the monarch and the heir. Out of Camilla's engagements, 33 of them were solo. Out of William's engagements, 22 were solo. Kate did, out of her 11 appearances, 6 of those were joint appearances. So these numbers place Kate and William far behind their older relatives. Now, the 2025 numbers are really what started this conversation. Last year, the engagement totals drew widespread attention. Charles led the family with 535 appearances. Anne close behind with 478. William 7th with 202. And Kate 10th with just 68 appearances. So these figures obviously have prompted fresh scrutiny of the couple's work ethic. And this is why that work-shy label follows them wherever they go. And they have tried over and over again to use the school run defense and being exhausted. All parents who have kids are exhausted, especially when they're trying to juggle work. You know what they don't have? They don't have butlers, nannies, you name it. Ugh. The anti-monarchy group Republic has been blunt. They describe the couple as particularly lazy, while noting that William receives a private income of more than $23 million a year. That figure does not include the sovereign grant or additional security costs. The public pays for this lifestyle. The public expects something in return. Exactly. What are we getting in return? What are we getting in return? Lottie, you said one thing William and Kate are not going to do is see Archie and Lilibet because those kids are too much like the Spencers and William's kids are not. Well, if William and Kate want to be stubborn and not see their niece and nephew, well, they just won't. They didn't even make an effort when Archie was born and still around in the UK. Joseph, you said the Derangers are trying to pre-sabotage the UK trip as they tried with Australia. Not gonna work. Okay, next thing. I want us to listen to a bit of audio. Let me get this up. Just going to circle back to trooping. They are trying to guilt Republic into feeling bad about the fact that the Wells kids were in the carriages and they were booing, when the very reason why they put them in those carriages when they didn't have to was to distract from the boos. The protesters have the right to protest. I can feel bad for the children, but the protesters still have the right to protest, and the firm could have made the decision to not put the children in the carriages. They could have just said, had the children stand on the balcony if they wanted them to take part. But they put them in those carriages knowing that the protesters were going to be there and that they would boo and they would have to be subjected to that. Now they're trying to make Republic feel guilty. Nonsense.
Those are the women that were most outspoken. The minute these women have opinions is the minute they lose public popularity.
Oh, that is actually the wrong... Hang on a sec. That's the wrong audio. Give me one moment, folks. Wrong audio. I think it is... yes, it should be this one. Let's just give it a moment. The monarchy has always relied on a simple exchange. Public funding for public service. The thing is that the public were actually fooled in thinking that what was going on was public funding. It absolutely was not. Showing up, smiling and waving here and there. So if the future king and queen are unwilling to match the commitment of their predecessors, the institution faces a difficult reckoning. Because to be honest, even when they do show up and do work with a small W, people are asking, well, what impact does this have? Just recently, they had these statements coming out from Kate, talking about how humans are craving connection. I mean, no, it's Sherlock. You're telling us something we all know. This is going to be her next thing that she's going to do this year, since she can't do anything consistent ever. It'll be this now. Anyway, here's the audio.
When the children were in the carriages being processed through, the crowds cheering, but of course, Republic, with a presence that I think we've become quite accustomed to now, appearing to jeer and shout at the children, which I think has been something of a backlash against Republic, a bit of an own goal, I'd say, for the monarchy.
I mean, that's just ridiculous. They were not jeering and shouting specifically at their children. Ridiculous. Stupid framing there. Especially from Katie Nicholl. Still accused of using information that was obtained through phone hacking, by the way. I don't know why she keeps being platformed, not just in the UK, but even in the US.
And got you one withering look from the Princess of Wales. My goodness, I wouldn't have wanted to be on the receiving end of that stare-off.
Well, we couldn't see it, to be honest, and we couldn't see them either. I mean, we were back behind the crowd. Hasn't been much of a backlash. I know some papers have tried to make it an issue, but I mean, we weren't booing the children. We were booing, or some people in the protest were booing the royals, because they all go past, within reasonably close proximity to each other. And the point of the protest, like any protest, is to get noticed and to make sure that, the message is there that this is not a country of, which is wholly behind the monarchy, that there are obviously crowds that will go out and see it, but there are, increasing numbers of people that oppose it.
But shouts of "not our king" at those young children in the carriages who were there because the public wanted to see them? I was just listening to the
conversation before where there was criticism of Harry for putting their kids on social media. Now, I'm pretty sure William has made similar comments about social media. They troop their kids out all the time. Now, I personally don't think that is appropriate. I think they should be leaving the children at home. I know that some of the European royal families don't involve their children until they turn 18. You'll see that, if anybody tries to,
he said it, right? Because they're not trying to use their kids like that. And a lot of the other mainland European royals, they're setting their kids up to be independent, away from the monarchy.
Do you know how many children Keir Starmer has, what they look like, what their names are? Most politicians these days also leave their children at home and keep them out of the press. The royals troop them out as part of their PR, which
Yes,
I
but as
think
we
one
were
of the
also
things
discussing on the show, Graham, the royals have a very different job to politicians. That line of succession, that dynasty is absolutely fundamental to the institution.
It's fundamental to them, and it's exploited.
That fundamental to them, and he's probably going to say it's exploitative to the children, and that's true. It also exploits the public for our attention, for our money, and creates a class system that is completely unequal. And that's why the monarchy is just never going to be relevant in this modern age. It's just not.
For their PR, but I mean, there's no reason why they can't leave them at home and let them come out when they're 18, when they can decide what they wish to do. And we've seen one of the things.
I would argue with you. The children look very comfortable in those carriages. I've been there at many trooping. I've seen them.
Absolutely nonsense. And speaking on behalf of these kids who look clearly uncomfortable, not just during trooping. I mean, they'd obviously be very uncomfortable during trooping because there were protesters there. But pretty much any time you see these children anywhere. And of course they look uncomfortable. They're kids being forced to be adults and perform. Children shouldn't be performing for the public like this. In 2026, we shouldn't be using royal kids as a way, first of all, as shields, and priming them and bringing them out as kids in this day and age. For what reason? For what reason do we need to be seeing these royal kids? For what reason do these royal kids need to be putting for what reason do they need to be put through this? Especially when they clearly look unhappy. Because it's not just about, I think about what could be going on within palace walls if what we know publicly is so troubling. And then you're bringing them out and you're forcing them to put on a straight face for the cameras and for the British public. For what? I don't need royal kids performing for me. Why do royal kids need to do that for the general public? For what reason? It's cruel and it's weird.
I've seen them. They're happy to wave. What they're not happy to have is protesters shouting at them, "Not our king," when in fact that's their grandfather.
Well, I mean, this is a very silly conversation. I mean, it's not about the.
Yeah, it is a very silly conversation. The protesters were shouting, "Not my king," when in fact that's their grandfather. Yeah, he's the monarch. Also, he's a political figure. So as the public, we have the right to criticize him. Talking about that's someone's grandfather. Okay. He's still the monarch. And we have the right to criticize the monarch and the monarchy if we feel that they're not doing right by the public.
About the monarchy. This is a corrupt and secretive institution. You had a lot of hypocrisy. The word hypocrisy has been thrown around for the last 10, 15 minutes about Harry and Meghan. But I mean, the royals are hypocrites. They don't pay tax. They interfere in the political process.
They do pay tax. They do pay tax, Graham. They do pay tax, and we'll be analysing the finances in a matter of weeks.
They pay some tax. They dodge huge tax bills. And as we know, they get 11 of them, most of whom and no one ever sees, get free homes at our expense. They cost well over £500 million a year.
Well, hang on a minute. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but they are paying rent on their houses. Prince William and Princess Catherine both pay the full rent on their house in Windsor.
Some of them, 11 of those royals, get free homes in Kensington Palace and St James's Palace, buildings which belong to the public and which should be museums open to the public. But, as I said, they cost well over £500 million. Now, this is an institution which is being accused by historians of being more secretive than CIA and MI5. They have serious questions to answer about what Andrew knew and when. And it is opposed for all sorts of reasons by about a third of the country, which is a significant increase on sort of 10, 15 years ago. And some polling is putting support for the monarchy below 50%. So, obviously it's going to be opposed. This is a state institution that has opposition, and that opposition is going to turn up and make itself known.
when the children were in the carriages being processed through.
He said what he said, and he said nothing wrong. Said what he said, and he said nothing wrong. Now, let's just stick to Kate for one sec. And let's talk about Kate's medical records. Apparently, a hospital worker, when Kate was in hospital, tried to sell her medical records. I wonder what was there that apparently was worth talking about and selling to the papers. So, oh, give me a sec, folks. It's article needs to load. So, a healthcare worker tried to sell the Princess of Wales's private medical records. It has emerged. The employee at the London clinic, who no longer works there, has been cautioned by the Information Commissioner's office over the deliberate misuse of the Princess of Wales' private medical records for financial gain. It involved highly sensitive personal information that an offer to disclose it for financial gain and representing a clear breach represented a clear breach of trust, the ICO said. In this case, the ICO concluded that a caution was the appropriate and proportionate enforcement response. The ICO, which is the UK's privacy and data protection watchdog, said on Wednesday, following a full assessment under the Code for Crown Prosecutors and the ICO prosecution policy, the ICO issued a now former healthcare professional from London with a formal caution. The watchdog said it did not find there were any wider failings at the London clinic, one of the largest private hospitals in the UK, which has also treated children for cancer. Interesting. A spokesperson for the London clinic said, "We all take considerable pride in delivering the very high standards of care and discretion for every patient in the London clinic." Well, I wonder what she saw. Did she see anything? What was worth selling, ma'am? What was worth selling? Wendy, you said UK Royal... Oh, you said something interesting, but then your comment disappeared. I'm not sure I can find it. Joseph, you said, if I were Harry and Meghan, I would release an official family facial portrait prior to the UK trip to take away the money from the tabloids getting front pages and photographs. Listen, they're going to try their hardest no matter what you do. Graham Smith also said there were fake medals they did not earn. Yeah, they've been doing that for a while. All right. We're going almost an hour now. So I will catch up with you tomorrow, folks. Thank you so much for listening to today's podcast as usual. Please hit the thumbs up button and subscribe button on your way out. And donate to the channel. Really appreciate it. It definitely helps. All right. See you tomorrow, folks. Ciao.